So what is going to happen? What does the future hold for the United States? Well, in the end, it's going to come down to the American people, because they will only poke and provoke. It is your action and reaction that makes the difference. Remember that. They are there to poke and provoke. Your action and reaction. Now is the time to take action and not get involved in reaction. Because reaction is only from their poking and their prodding and their provoking. That's all that is. We have to get out of the reactive mode. That was one of the reasons why we started the American Dream Labs. We have to chart our own course again. And we have to teach our children that it can be done. A different life can be had, and man can chart his own course. The single individual can pursue his happiness and make life better for not only him and his family, but the rest of the world, and show that independence lives. Now, an executive order comes down. You go right into violent rebellion, because there will be those people, because they're there already. They are there already. There are already those people who have been, the New World Order, and I'm just as much against the New World Order as you are, Jack. But I'm not crazy. I know the dynamics of the world. It's the same thing with some of these off-the-charts, live in the woods all the time kind of constitutionalists that say the only way we can get this back is for the country to be destroyed, and then we'll rebuild from the Constitution. You're crazy. It was a miracle of God. Read the second inaugural address of Abraham Lincoln. If you read the second inaugural address, he's not sure how it's going to end or when it's going to end. And he says, if God requires that all of the gold that it was built on the backs of slaves is thrown asunder, and if every drop of blood drawn by the lash is spilled by the sword, if that's what God requires, that he wipes us completely out, okay, so be it. I got news for you. There comes a time of resetting. Life is no different than our economic cycle. God is no different. Life is no different. The planet is no different. There comes a time to reset because things have gotten out of control. The reset is not a good thing. It's not a pleasant thing. It is a natural thing, but it's not a pleasant thing. And if you think we naturally default and naturally go to our original settings, the original settings are not freedom. That took work. That took brilliant men. That took God's finger to get man to be free. That's not a natural setting. The natural default setting of men is tyranny. So, what does the president want? What is it that they've been trying to get since the day this guy was in office? You to react. You to be violent. They've pushed you and pushed you and pushed you and pushed you. They accused you. They've been calling you a terrorist, a violent threat since the beginning. They've built the case already. You are violent. And they didn't just build that case here in the United States. They built that case all over the world. The most armed, the most violent, the crazy, the one who won't share, the greedy, the one who's trying to poison the entire world, kill all the children, starve the entire planet. It's you. It's you. That's the case the whole world understands and is willing and ready to accept. As long as they don't have to take responsibility, they'll gladly give that responsibility to you. So executive orders accomplish what he tried to accomplish in his first term. And when he couldn't accomplish it with you, then they immediately went to Occupy Wall Street, and they put everything in it they could. They had every Hollywood star down there. The president gave speeches on how they're the greatest people ever. All of them, everybody, all the press held them up as great examples, tried to get them out. The universities were shipping people down there, giving you extra credit if you were part of Occupy Wall Street, and it failed. And then they started to say, where's the outrage? Where's the anger? Where are they? The FBI, thank God, actually went out and busted people who were terrorists. You know that there was another one that was busted with bomb-making ability in New York. Just happened a couple of weeks ago. Okay? Couldn't get them to do it. Let's start at the beginning. It's a new administration. What would get them? Well, we violated the First Amendment. We violated the Fifth Amendment. We violated almost all the amendments. You know what really get them? What really get them is if we violate the Second Amendment, because that's the one thing. We don't seem to care about any of the amendments anymore. Remember, this is the baseline. Our founders said, I'm not going to sign that document until you do this. You tell me you'll never, ever, 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 ever violate these things, and I'll sign that document. This is the baseline. These are the 10 commandments of America. These 10 things we will never do. How many of those 10 things have they already violated? The only one that we seem to care about over freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, freedom of search and seizure. We only seem to care about the guns. And they know that. And so they will poke and provoke. Now, let's put this into historic perspective. When John F. Kennedy was killed by a high-powered rifle, no one said, let's go after the rifles. When Abraham Lincoln was killed by a gun, no one said, let's go after the guns. Why? When Brady wanted to go after handguns, the guy who was gunned down and almost died on the table said no. No. It took over 10 years and a Democratic president named Clinton to get Brady's handgun bill and the assault weapons bill to pass. Reagan, the guy who was actually affected, said people's rights are at stake. Yes, I almost lost my life, but people's rights are at stake. So what are you going to do? At the top of the hour, we're going to talk to you a little bit about your relationship with your doctor, because that's going to come into play. Because now there's new executive orders that will require your doctor to report whether there's a gun in the home, and now there's new restrictions on who can own a gun. So now your doctor is in the position of spying on you. What can you say to your doctor that he isn't required by law to report? And if you, God forbid, have anybody on Prozac in the house, you'll lose your guns. They have to be turned in. So what are you going to do? You stop reporting to your doctor? You going to stop going to your doctor? If somebody comes to your door and says, you have to give me your handguns, your semi-automatic weapons, all the things that are licensed, that you have a right, they're grandfathered in, you going to give them up? Okay, the answer is no. Now what are you going to do? They come, do you start shooting? Do you gather in groups and barricade yourself behind walls and start shooting when they come there? Well, I got news for you. They have drones. They burned people alive before. They did it in Waco, Texas. They don't care. They'll burn you and your whole family, and you will lose because the press is on their side. Do you think it was right that they burned the people alive in Waco, Texas? I don't care how crazy they were. They burned them alive. And somehow or another, when you think of Waco, Texas, you don't think of the mass tragedy that the government did, you think of the crazy people from Waco, Texas. Ruby Ridge. They win, guys. Not only because they have all the press, they have the entire world. The entire world wants you to be disarmed. They want you to give up on the Constitution. They want you to give up on this idea of capitalism, you greedy bastard. They'll fly planes over this country in a heartbeat. They want to destroy the Americans' experiment, the exceptionalism. They're tired of hearing it. So armed rebellion would be the way to go? Or do we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor and stand by the Constitution and say, you know what? You have to come take my guns? Well, I want my day in court, and you're going to have to arrest me. And the person standing next to him says, and you're going to have to arrest me, too, because I have guns, too. And the person standing next to that person says, you're going to have to arrest me, Sheriff. And the entire town stands together and says, well, you're going to have to arrest all of us because you're violating the Constitution. And you all silently get into the car and are arrested. They can't arrest all of us. They can do it if they have a tragic event, and they will. Now, I know that this sounds a little like the way the Jews went to the gas chambers, but that's crazy. I mean, who would build re-education camps and mass killing centers? It's the United States of America. There's no reason to go there. We're talking about reasonable people. I will tell you that just as it is with everything with this administration, they always present you with a lose-lose situation. I stand on the side of Gandhi, and I stand on the side of Jesus, and I stand on the side of Martin Luther King. That is the only thing that will work. And it will work for a very short period of time before this window closes on the entire world, and nobody cares anymore. But we're approaching it, where nobody sees people as people anymore. Once that window closes, it's only violent resistance. That's what happened in Germany. Nobody cared anymore. I refuse to believe that America is there. I believe that you can make your case in a court of law. I believe you can make your case in the court of public opinion that if you are good, decent, and honorable, remember, nobody was for the African American. Nobody was for the African American. But when Martin Luther King was through, everyone was for the African American. Because they were right. But they were honorable at the same time. Back in a second.